got a chance to see Allien Romulus tonight. Let's talk about it right now. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Thank you so much for spending time with me as we rant about movies, comic books, and television shows, as well as an occasional board game. I am your host, Frank Zanka. I'm an award-winning screenwriter, novelist, and comic book writer, as well as a filmmaker. Had a pretty good call tonight. I may be getting on a show, which could change a lot of things. And yeah, I'll probably get this one because it's a cosmic joke. Definitely the heavens like to play pranks on me, so that's why this is probably... I gotta tell this story one day. Not right now, but definitely, if this happens, I'll tell the story. Alright, so let's jump into Allien Romulus, but before we do, remember to give me a like, give me a thumbs up if you can, and if you can, subscribe, please do. Ring that bell. Also, if you are interested in filmmaking and producing... how to write to a certain budget, what the tropes of writing is, how to break down a film, how to get everything ready for investors, then I'm going to be giving a class via Zoom next week. I did talk the production company into lowering the price to what I had it for previously. And yeah, so if you want to check that out, the Stripe is in the description below. Plus, remember, too, that I'm also a board game designer, and me and Mark Spears, who's done a lot of comic covers for Marvel and DC, Spawn, Vampirella, etc. We're doing a classic Monsters card game. It's very easy to learn, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to be launching that on Kickstarter in October, and you can also check out the link in the description below where you can sign up and get notifications about when we're going to launch. All right, so let's jump into, without any more ado, I know I talk about my own shit, but let's talk about Allien Romulus. I was very excited to see this film because, to me, there has not been an Alien film since Aliens. So I did not like Alien 3, although it had some parts to it. I liked that Sigourney Weaver did come back. But other than that, there wasn't a whole lot to talk about there. And then we had this whole thing with Prometheus that was just god awful. We had a alien movie with no aliens in it. And then we had the other one with Fassbender where he was the android luring people in. And they were literally looking into the egg. What's that? Ah! It was so awful. So awful. And I saw that Ridley Scott was coming back to the director, had something to do with it, and I was like, oh, okay, we'll finally get a good one. And that was shit. So we literally have had 3 Alien films back to back to back that have all been crap. So I'm like, where it didn't even feel like Alien. That's the problem. So it was written poorly. They had, Prometheus had an amazing cast. I mean, you had Charlize Theron in there, and again, you had Fassbender and all that stuff, and it was just horrible. Now we had a horror director with this one step in. Not unusual for him to step into taking over IPs. He did that for Evil Dead, which was his first film, believe it or not, 10 years ago. And just about maybe close to 11 years ago. But everything he did before that was shorts. So the guy's never done anything prior to doing Evil Dead. And then he did Don't Breathe, and then he did Don't Breathe 2. So he's had successes, and he is a writer, producer, director, although he has a partner. So, which is, highly unusual. Of course, he probably has producers that take over for him, but his writing partner, first of all, his name is Fade Alvarez, and I'm not sure where they shot this. I think they shot this in Hungary somewhere, but if you look at the crew, they look like they're from Norway or Swedish or something to that effect. There's just accents and 2 dots over names all over the place. So I don't know where these VFX crews were and, some of their other crew that they brought in, but they were all from other countries for certain. I can't even tell you where. So his partner is Rado I can't even say his last name. Saragace? I don't know. Alvarez, of course, is Spanish. I'm sure he wanted, some Spanish representation on the crew, so I'm sure there's some of that too. But it's kind of all over the place as far as his crew's concerned. But I did see that they shot at least part of it in Hungary. He knows how to shoot low budget. So the budget for this film is $80 million. I was bringing out the fact that it was low budget, or was written for a low budget, because he only had a handful of actors on this thing. And of course, only a handful of locations. He only had one or two scenes that had extras in it, and the cast was not expensive. He didn't have any cast members here that were expensive. None. These were all up-and-comers. I mean, you can't tell me that Kaylee Spaney was going for any large amount of money. I mean, she's trying to break out. She's had some good successes, but, I mean, she just did Civil War, which was a lower budget film, way lower than this. And, she did the second Pacific Rim film. She did Priscilla. So she's up and comer, but there's no way that, she's demanding, $10 million per film at all. For her to be in an Alien film, she probably jumped at this. Not to mention the fact that she's 5'1". She's never going to be an action star. And Archie Renault, I mean, the acting is decent. And obviously everybody likes it because I just looked at the Rotten Tomatoes, and you're looking at 82 and 87% between the reviewers and the audience score, and so everybody likes it so far. Isabella Merced is also 5'1". Of course, she was from the Madam Web movie. She was from Dora the Explorer. She was in Instant Family. So she's very good, I think. She also was a child actress in Sicario, where I think she was only about 8 or 9 years old. The Asian chick in here, Eileen Wu, this is the first thing she's ever done. So I thought she was decent too. And the guy playing Bjorn, his name is Spike. His parents apparently did not like him. But the real standout for this film is David Johnson. He's a British actor. I've seen nothing that he's been in. But he was the heart of this film. He played an android. And I'm going to do no spoilers here. But if you look at IMDb, that's about all I'm spoiling here. Because they brought back, for whatever reason, Ian Holm, who was, of course, from The Hobbit. They CG'd his face. And he played an android in there. He plays Rook here. So we're staying with the chess piece type of situation. But Ian Holm, of course, is older now. So they just de-aged him and stuck his face on somebody else. And you could tell that it was a deep fake. They could have used anyone else in here. And it didn't matter if we had the member berries of bringing him back. And it took me out of the film continuously by seeing this deep fake face. And they did the same thing at the end. Of course, I'm not going to tell you which character, but they deep faked the face onto, it might have been all CG, in the person in the suit, in the spacesuit. So, and there were some holes here. There were some things that bothered me. So the storyline is that we have Rain, which is Kaylee Spaney's character, and Andy, who is the android. Her parents are dead. The android is kind of fucked up. I mean, it's broken, but it was the only living thing that she entrusted her life with. And even though it was kind of, I hate to say it this way, but he acted like a retard. Like there was some kind of mental deficiency. And but she took care of him, and I think she liked taking care of him, even though he was kind of a burden on her. But of course he didn't eat or anything else, so it's not like she had to pay for anything. Maybe power, I don't know. But anyway, she was looking to get off world because they're on this planet and she was doing, menial labor type situation. She wanted to see the sun, and this planet had no sunlight. It had a sun, but there was, I guess, so much debris and everything else that there was no sunlight coming into the planet, which I have a problem with on many levels. First of all, if there's no sunlight and there's no light getting through, which means no radiation rays coming through, then you would have everything be frigid. Everything would be so cold that you wouldn't be able to live there. So, everything would just be frozen. So that's the first part. So, and I'm going to get into the no sunlight thing again here in a second. But anyway, she wants to get off this planet. She has worked enough hours to do that. So she walks in to try to get a travel, because the next planet away is like 10 years that has any kind of sunlight. So it's not like she can just jump in a ship and go. She needs some kind of suspended animation to get there. So that's the whole basis for the film. They reject her, saying that we've just upped it, so now conveniently for this corporation, which is Weyland Yutong, I think it is. That's the name of the corporation for all of Alien for the most part. And now she has to work another 5 years, so she goes to see her friends who also want to get off the planet. They also want to go to the same, planet that's, everybody wants to go to. It's like the destination. It's like their utopia, their oasis type of thing. So they all want to go there, but their ship that they have doesn't have any kind of suspended animation. So they find these thing in a derelict ship. So they go up to the derelict ship, and of course that's where all of the action happens to get these suspended animation. But of course there's 5 of them, and there happens to be 5 suspended animation units. Not 6, that it would, everything would probably be like on an even number. No, it happens to be 5 and 5. So it was very convenient. Then on top of that, again, Eileen Wu, who plays Navarro, she is the pilot. And, she's piloting the ship above where the clouds are, so they get to see the sun for the first time. And she puts on sunglasses. Where did these sunglasses come from? How could she have bought sunglasses on a planet that has no sun? Some shop owner just happens to be selling sunglasses to people that have perpetual night. There must not be a whole lot of demand. That shipment they had was probably 10 years old. I don't know. 100 years old, maybe. It makes no sense. So he made little mistakes like that had me going, what? What? But it did have some good stuff to it. The ship effects are excellent. I had no problem with the ship effects. The alien effects are good for the most part, but when it came to some of the other stuff, the effects were not good. I thought that the budget would be less, with the fact that 90% of the film takes place on a ship with just a few people. Did he really pay that much for effects and things like that? I can't imagine. So this is cheaper than, of course, the other films, even the more recent ones like Prometheus, because, they don't have a lot of the above the line, like the director, and the actors. But still, 80 million times 2.5, it's not even 80, it's more like 100, right? Because probably at least $20 million in marketing. So you're at, $250 million to break even. So let's hope it makes that, $260 million at very least to break even. And this is done by Disney. And I really thought that we were going to go into, the girl boss, even though she's 5'1", Isabella Merced is 5'1", I'm like, really? Is she going to be able to pull off an action star at 5'1"? It'd be a hard pill to swallow, I'll put it that way. But thankfully, they didn't. They didn't do that. She didn't know how to fire a gun. She had to be taught. And the gun self-targeted. So all she had to do was pull it halfway, and she could lock a target, and it would move with her. Because it was pretty interesting, because the stock went under her arm, so that was straight, but the actual gun itself was on a hinge. I thought that was interesting. So it had some good stuff to it, of course. They used lines from the other movie. They used scenes from the other movies and stuff like that. But if you're an Alien fan, you're going to appreciate that stuff being in there, where at least it went back to feeling like an Alien film. It didn't go into this really strange direction about, these white giants or that. I hated all of that. I hated all of it. But at least it went back into a direction that we recognize, even though it was semi-derivative. Just basically putting new characters in there. So the characters were not warriors at all, and they weren't meant to be. So, of course, by going up against the aliens, they're, going to lose. And for the most part, they do. And even the ending is very reminiscent of the first movie, stuff to that effect. So he definitely harkened back to the originals so that he could say, see, I didn't ruin anything by, playing in this sandbox. And I agree. He didn't ruin anything. And it was an enjoyable time, and I did feel like I was going back to the first Alien movie with some of the stuff from the second movie kind of thrown in. So I did enjoy it. I do think it was above average. I do think also that the second act did slow down quite a bit, and then it sped back up in the third act. So I enjoyed the first act. I enjoyed the third act. I think the second act could have been compressed a little bit. I think it was 2 hours. I think it definitely could have been cut back at least 10 minutes. So I do recommend it. I do feel it is like a 7.5 out of 10. It is something I will watch again. I wish there was some of the stuff in there that bothered me, like the deep fake, like the sunglasses, some of the other stuff that, bothered me. I wish it wasn't in there. Of course, we don't know why the aliens were even on there. Like the face huggers, they had a ton of face huggers. I don't know why. Like you see that in the trailer too, where they're all going down the hallway. I don't know why that existed. And we also, I don't want to give it away. Damn it. Yeah, I won't give it away. But it is the first time we see a certain type of death. I'll just put it that way. Which I kind of enjoyed because we really didn't get to ever see it to this degree. But what's great is that we got a horror director in there and knew how to play to the horror, and he knew how to play to the action as well. Because there was some pretty good action scenes in here. You do end up caring for the characters to a certain extent. There's one character you're just waiting for the person to die. I'm like, can he or she not be first? They make bad decisions, stuff like that. And then there's also, somebody can tell me, if Archie Renault's character, so he's supposedly dating or in a romantic relationship or an interest relationship with Rain. But it was hinted that he had done something else. So if you've seen it, you'll know what I'm talking about. And let me know if you got that impression as well. It's interesting. All right, well, that's it for me. Again, I recommend it, especially if you're an Alien fan. Definitely go see it because it does put everything kind of, even though it's derivative, it does put everything back onto track where it feels like an Alien film, which that's really all I wanted. Now that we have something back on track, maybe we can do something that's not derivative. Like, okay, everybody hated this comic, and I forgot who wrote it. I think it was James Tynion. I can't remember off the top of my head. But there was a comic where they were allowing the synthetics to have their own lives. So after a certain amount of time, they would set them free, and they would be able to have their own lives even though they were synthetics. But they were military. They were warriors. So they ended up, not having money. They couldn't get, of course, they couldn't get jobs, etc. So they offered them money and land and houses and whatever else, living, to come back and to go to a planet to wipe out aliens, or to at least to investigate. I don't think they knew that they were aliens, but to investigate, and they needed military personnel because there was some kind of a gaseous form where humans couldn't go in there, and of course the androids didn't breathe, the synthetics couldn't breathe, so they could go where the humans couldn't. But anyway, so they end up fighting these aliens, and it was a whole team, and they had known each other forever, and they were like family. And it was more like aliens with only synthetics. And, all they wanted to do was have a future. So it was almost like Blade Runner meets Alien. And I really, really enjoyed that story. I know a lot of people hated it. I really enjoyed it. And that's something that they could do that would be different. And that's what I'm kind of expecting here, is maybe now that they've done the Alien movie over again to a certain extent, maybe now that they've proven themselves, maybe now we can take it in kind of a different direction, which would be nice. All right. Sounds good. Anyway, thank you guys so much again for watching. I greatly appreciate it if you watched all the way through. Let me know what you guys think. Did you guys like it? Did you not like it? And if you didn't, let me know why or what your favorite parts were. And on top of that, remember that I am going to be giving my class, if you are interested in filmmaking, on Zoom Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 1 hour per night. So no matter where you are on West Coast or East Coast, you should be out of work. And it's not that expensive now that I had asked them to drop the price. But anyway, the description below will have the link to buy tickets for that. And then, too, remember that Myth Lords is going live in October, and you can sign up in the description below, too, for Kickstarter. Just put your information in so that it will email you. I won't be emailing you, but it will email you about when it launches, and you can play as any of the classic monsters. And on top of that, we also have an Oz expansion. Remember to give me that like, give me that subscribe. Remember to also subscribe if you can, ring that bell, ding ding, and check out some of my other videos on your way out as well. All right, talk to you guys soon.